empty was right below. You cannot deal with that 3 ladies at one time. That's how it would happen. So the other thing I brought in is pornography into this marriage. This is what I was raised with. I got into my dad's stash, my uncle's stash. I was very clever in breaking into things and not getting caught. And why? Lonely. Bad habits. Didn't know how to get rid of it. But in return, making her feel she's not worth it.
Yeah, so one of the things that I brought in already before that was low self-worth already. There was this one thing I really wanted in my life, and that was to be wanted. To be wanted. Like, I wanted somebody to want me, you know, it's like, and to treasure me. And I didn't feel like I was worth anything. There were things that were written in my life that just kind of just said I was never going to be good enough. Never, like, and maybe people didn't mean it, and maybe people complimented me, but no matter how many times people complimented me, I couldn't hear anything else. I was never going to be good enough. And so I brought that in, and so the pornography only added to that. You know, it's like I already was feeling that, and that just made it worse. One of the other things that I brought in was anger. You know, it's like, and I'd lash out in such, like how I said, you know, in all that rage, and I just get like really crazy at times. Now, I didn't necessarily lose it like that all the time. That was a pretty rare thing where I lost it that much, but it's like, it was always being critical, and I would say that on his end, he was being very critical too. And so it's like we were cutting into each other's image that God created. It's like, so we were taking our own knives and hacking at each other's lives that we would eventually have to heal from, but we're the ones that caused the wounds in each other.
Due to all the abuse that I went through, I brought in a lot of hurt. Didn't know how to deal with it. So when she would lash out at me, shut down, disappear, vanish, no place to go, but my room.
I will say that in the beginning of our marriage, he was a lot more quiet, and he didn't fight back as much in the beginning of our marriage. He was the safe place for me to heal from all of those wounds that I had. See, it's like, here's all these gashes inside of my life, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I was thinking, you know, like I'd say things like, if you would only do this, like if you only were like would help around the house, then I would be happy. And then he'd try help around the house, and I still wasn't happy. It's like, if you only would, you know, like stop going out with your friends and like start being around more, then I'd be happy. Well, if he tried to do that, I still wasn't happy. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, it gotta be that it's you that's the problem. It's gotta be, I really, really was thinking that. It's like, it's gotta be something about you, because it's you that I'm mad at. And it's like, so, you know, obviously you're the problem. And so I kept trying to tell him what he needed to fix. And every time he tried to do it, I found I was still just as angry and empty. And so I realized there's something missing here. And so it's like I had this walk with God, and God confronted this one year in my life, and he said, Abby, you have a controlling spirit. And I was leading worship. And I was like, what? I was like, how can I have this demon in me, like this controlling spirit? It's like, you know, it's like, I do spiritual deliverance for other people. And he said, no, you have a controlling spirit. And so that, I was like, okay, God, if I do, how do I get rid of it? And he said, and he started to deal with the issues of my heart, the places of the unforgiveness, and in my life from things in the past. He started to go deep into my heart. And that Sunday, there was a man that Pastor Jeff brought from another island who just happened to do spiritual deliverance. And that day, I got spiritually delivered from this thing. It's like these 5 balls of air came out of my life. And that's actually something that just made a big difference. And so I just kind of was saying, I don't want to go back to the way I was, because I definitely felt the difference in my life. So I started realizing that the problem was really with me. Like, I couldn't change him. And it really wasn't him that was causing the dissatisfaction in my life. The dissatisfaction was coming from my lack of letting God get into the areas that were hurting me. So as deep as those places are, if you look, it's like no matter how much I tried to get close to God, I kept feeling like there's something missing, like there's distance. And no matter how much I tried to, I wanted to be one with Elton and I wanted to have that closeness with him, it was impossible. There was no way we were able to get to each other. There's no way that we were going to feel that closeness because there was all these gaps in our life, all these hurts, all these wounds. And the deeper the wound is the deeper that God has to go. And it didn't just happen overnight. This took years of letting God so I stopped taking my eyes, I stopped putting my eyes on Elton and what he needed to change. And I started just focusing in on God. And I started to pursue God. Because I was like, you know what? He's doing so much. It was like, by that point in time, it was just like, it was so horrible. I couldn't even see how this thing was even gonna ever work, you know what I'm saying? But he wasn't abusive necessarily to me, but he was definitely, harsh with the kids. And so it was difficult for me, and it's like I hear him pursuing God, and I'm wanting to walk righteous, and I'm wanting to walk holy, and he was like pursuing a whole other lifestyle. Like lying and just hiding the pornography and like doing all this other stuff and just like watching like really dirty things and stuff, movies. And I was like, you know what? I said, so I started like pursuing God, and God would say, like, Abby, you're responsible for you and your children. You pursue me. You let me get to you, and you leave him to me. And he said, and I was like, I don't want to go ahead. I don't want to like walk ahead of him. It's like, I don't want to pursue you. And then it's like, and then I'm like closer to you than he is. I want to do this together. But he said, that's not your responsibility. He said, you come after me and just leave him to me. Don't try waiting, So I started letting God get into those really deep places. But every time he went into one of these memories, I'd start lashing out on him. Because all the emotions started coming up. And oh my gosh, and all the fears, and all like you're right in the front of your face, it's like, and so it's like you just start acting really mean at the time, it's like because all those emotions are going through you, and it's like, and he was loving at the time. God gave him the grace and the strength and the patience to be loving with me so that I could heal from all those wounds. So the more I was healing, the closer I was starting to get to God, closer and closer and closer. And I won't say it's perfect like this, but it's like a whole lot better. It's like I felt so connected to God. I was feeling so close. And then God said to me one day, he said, Abby, now it's time for you to be a safe place for him. Because he has so many hurts and so many poisons and toxins in his life that he has to heal from. He said, basically he was like, brace yourself. It's like, now you're gonna be for him what he was for you. And I was thinking, it's like, oh, this is gonna be so perfect, our marriage, he's so loving already, it's like, he's being so nice, I was like, even when I'm lashing out at him, he was being so nice, and I was thinking, it's like, okay, now that I'm fixed, it's like, this is gonna be great. I didn't really get what God was saying until right after that. It wasn't very long after God told me I needed to be a safe place that all the toxins started rising out of him. And oh my gosh, it was like living with the devil.
Truthfully, yeah. Just everything started coming up. And I started really lashing out at her. So everything turned around towards her. Because again, she was already bashing me already, and I was holding it for so long.
Yeah, I had many wounds in his life. Yeah.
I didn't know how to release it, really release it. So when we started to go through and seeking professional help, I used to be against seeing a psych. Really, I was really against it because what does he know? He's not living my life. He's not walking in my shoes. But he opened the doors where I could see what he's talking about, what's coming up, why it's coming up, and what's bringing that hurt out. I really didn't want to bash her, be angry with her. I mean, it was hard.
The truth is, I hated it too. I hated every time I lashed out on him, I'd feel really bad afterwards. And I was like, I couldn't understand what was wrong with me. I couldn't understand why I was so angry and why I was blasting him so much. until God started dealing with those issues of my heart, those hurts that were causing these bombs to go off in me. And when I dealt with the things that were infected, then when he pushed on my life or said things, they didn't have a reaction anymore because they were healed. It's like, but wounds that are not healed are going to cause a reaction. You're going to have anger. If you have just any kind of explosion in anger, whether it's towards your parents, to your spouse, to your children, you know something in your life is not healed yet. There are gashes in your life. There are hurts that need to be dealt with. It says, we are so unhappy. Of course, I can accept you for who you are because you are someone I need to change. So it's kind of like coming into this place where, you know, your spouse is not who meets your needs. It's like kind of realizing that. It's like they can never ever meet all your needs. It's like starting to realize, like, as I was healing and all these things, I was like, you're not the problem in my life. You're not the reason why I don't have joy. You're not the reason why I don't have peace. You're not the reason why I don't feel loved. You're not the reason why I feel like miserable or depressed or suicidal. It's like, you're not the reason. It's like, and they start realizing, oh, my children are not the reason why I'm angry just because the house is messy. It's like, my children are, you can say it. It's like, if you did this, it's like, I'm mad because you guys didn't do this. But it's like, really, there's this big mirror in my face every time I even say those things. And says, no, it's me. It's me and what's going on with me and God. Because God, He's our shelter, a refuge, and a hiding place. He's the one who comforts us. He's the healer. He's my healer. He's the source of wisdom, and He's everything that we need. If it was true that our spouse is everything that we need, that they're the ones that's supposed to meet our need, then if our spouse dies, we're in big trouble. We wouldn't be able to survive. It's like, if really it's like God created our spouse to be everything we need, it's like, well, you know, it's like, you know, we'd fall apart if they ever died. But the truth is, God is everything that we need. Our spouse is only whatever he brings to the table or she brings to the table that is good. That's just an added bonus on top of what you have already with God. You already have everything you need as long as you have this real walk with God. It's like everything you need is already in Him. So when your spouse starts doing something nice or loving or kind, it's like, it's just an extra present. It's just an extra gift brought to your life. When your children are loving and good, it's like, that's an extra gift. But they're not the reason, you know, they're not your source of joy already. You already had that. They're not your strength, you already had that. They're not your healer, you already had that. You know, it's like, you already feel wanted and loved. He is our provider. He is our protector. He is our healer. He is our source of joy, our source of peace and love. He is our comforter and everything that we need. We will lack nothing if we make Christ the center of our life. This is where I have to come to. This is what changed my life. And I want to make this clear. It's like, I don't think that people should stay in a relationship if their spouse is being physically abusive or, you know, going around and cheating and all that stuff. I don't think that that's, you know, safe. It's not like God wants you to stay in a marriage that's like really hurting physically. I even feel like if a father is like really physically abusing a child, I believe the mother is responsible to remove those children from that home if they're being extremely physically violent. It's like, because you're the only lifeline for that child. It's like, you are called to protect, and I feel like God wants you to protect your children. So it's like, I'm not saying that being a safe place is letting your spouse do whatever they want and being okay with it. I'm saying that there's boundaries. Like, you know, if somebody, like, I open my life now and it's like, everybody can come in and it's like, and I'm not gonna leave you. It's like, I'm gonna be there all the way through. But if you keep lying, say so, or just say somebody keeps stealing from me, well, the boundaries are gonna go out a little bit. You know, it's like, it's gonna be like, you're not allowed in my house if you keep stealing from my house. That doesn't change the position that you have in my heart. I still love you. I'll still be there in your life. I'll still give you another chance. You know, it's like, as long as you keep on, you make the correction, there's always room for forgiving. But as long as you're continuing to do that, there's a line drawn and saying, like, no, you can't do that. God doesn't even let us do that. It says if we keep on living our lives the way we want to live it without Him, heart in our heart, He actually takes us